Alright, welcome to hopefully the last phase of this thing. We're going to pour these holds and be done with the whole thing. Alright, so you see that we've got the mold here that we've been working on for a while. It's washed out, you can still see a lot of foam in it. It's kind of embedded in there. The first hold that we cast is probably going to have some remnants of that foam on it, which is fine. It'll go on my private wall, no problem after that. I've got an extra mold here. I'm not going to make the amount needed for just this hold. I'm going to pour enough resin, polyurethane to cast several holds because I got a bunch that I want to do. So we got the measurement that we need here. It's just a little over 100 milliliters. I'm going to make more than that. I'll probably do 300 or 400, probably 300 milliliters, and fill some of the other molds I've got. You can see I've got one of my older molds set up already. You see how I try to do more than just one hold at a time, just because this guy right here is pretty cheap to produce, silicone wise, because most of his sidewalls are being used elsewhere. One of my more efficient molds, this bear claw one I've got here. You can see this is the first one I've got my Aux'Arc logo in here, but it's fairly efficient, saves a bunch of time there. The sidewalls are all good, everything's going in here, everything looks decent. You can see there's a lot less foam in this one than there is here. It's really, it gets out after that first one and kind of just ekes its way out after that. So, you see there's a bunch of stuff going on here as far as supplies we need. Let's run through the basics here. So I've got the Aluma-Res, the Aluma-Lite casting resin. It's called RC3 Tan technically. You open the box up and it opens up into these two bottles here. So we can throw away the box here at this point. I don't care about that. It comes with these sweet little measuring cups. Yeah, I don't need 25 milliliter measuring cups. That's kind of pointless to me. So what I've got here, this one gets up to it gets a little above a half liter. I have a bigger one for some of my other holds that gets up to 1,000. And I've used that a couple times. All my bigger holds use it. So for this one, 500 milliliters is plenty. I've got a well-used stir stick, just something to get it done with. I do have mold release. I'm not probably going to use it on the smaller stuff. Really, it's kind of pointless. There's nothing really critical on these that they can get torn off. Like if you had some cuts, some cracks in the hold that were kind of big, your silicone could get stuck up in there. This really isn't too bad. If we were to use it, you just do a light spray and let it dry. If you do too much, I've seen this kind of ruin a hold because there's so much moisture in there that the hold conforms to the moisture, or the resin conforms to the moisture instead of the hold itself. So you don't use this liberally, you use it very carefully. I think I used the word liberal right. So yeah, not a lot of the spray, just a little bit. We're not going to use it today, but if you need it, it's an Aluma-Lite product. It says Cast and Craft on it. Oh, it's not an Aluma-Lite product. It's the same Hobby Lobby though. Here's the Aluma-Res. It comes in two parts. You mix it 1-to-1, says on the instructions. I've got some dye back here sitting in a sweet complicated holder to keep it upside down so that I don't have to get that slow sludgy stuff all the way down to the bottom when I start pouring. The other thing I need here is these washers. So if you go to the store and you pick up 3/8 inch washers, you'll notice that there's some slack in it. I believe this is a 3/8 inch washer. And it kind of sits on that peg a little bit loose. These are this isn't bad. Some of the 3/8 washers that you pick up have a lot of room and they're kind of big, and I don't like that. I found that 5/16 washers are smaller and outer diameter. I really just need enough for the bolt head to sit on. It doesn't need to be crazy. So 5/16 washer sits tighter to the peg. It's a smaller diameter, so it doesn't take up as much of the hold, because you start getting too big of washers. You can't use fender washers in here because you're cutting that hold in half essentially inside the polyurethane. So that's a terrible thing to do. You're losing a lot of structural support. You really want to keep it just a little bit bigger than the bolt head. These washers here, you see, I've actually shorn down with a shear at work. We'll have to find a different solution for that to do in your home, but because not everybody just has the option to just take it to your work and shear it there. Not everybody works in an industrial maintenance position. So, but I've got it sitting down in that narrow hold, and that works pretty well. So I've got 5/16 inch washer. I'm going to drop over the peg. Now you'll notice that on these pegs that they're silicone, and that's all right for these shorter holds. For some of the bigger holds, we'll have to find some different solutions. The first couple times you do this peg's probably going to fight you until you figure out the trick. But I may have to actually go to an actual 3/8 inch washer for this, or take it off camera and really fight this thing. But it should fit past that first lip. Once you get past that first lip, you're golden. There we go. So pull that thing through and set it right on top of that bump. Try and get it as level as possible inside there. There we go. Yeah, take off some silicone. Perfect. All right, so that's on there. Throw that washer on that peg. The silicone peg works just fine for your shorter holds. For some of when you start getting some taller holds, we'll talk about a different solution. We'll do a video on that. But your silicone starts getting kind of floppy when it gets past a certain height, and it's really hard to get a level, straight hole for your bolt in your hold when it's like that. So try and keep your shorter holds limited to your silicone pegs, and then after that we'll go to a different solution. So this is really ready to set up now. The other thing you need, your surface has to be level. So this is kind of a redneck situation right now, sitting on this dirty concrete floor and on a stool. We just moved into this house a couple of weeks ago, and this is my shop, and we're getting going on it, but nothing is really built in here. The tables are really old and out of whack, out of level. I'm gonna have a bouldering wall along this back side, but right now we're still moving in, we're still getting going, so that's something we're gonna work up into. Some of the Patreon costs we're gonna go to is reforming this shop. So I'm really excited about that future. But for now, I've got it sitting on the stool because this stool is level. I've taken a larger, I got a 3-foot level that I ran across this thing. You can do it with any level really, but make sure it's level both directions, because that liquid's gonna self-level obviously. So make sure it's level. If it's out of whack, you're gonna have your mold sloped and to where the hole goes in, and that's not gonna work at all. You know, if it's poured like this, it's pretty useless. So make sure your surface is level. We're gonna pour, we're actually gonna put some gloves. The other thing I like to have is nylon gloves. Or I'm sorry, latex gloves. I like to have latex gloves as well. I've not had any problems with this chemical. If it has had skin contact, but it's not something I really want to, if something were to go wrong, I would just spill it all over my hands. I really don't want that. I've only had like incidental drops or something. That's not a big deal, but I really don't want to deal with an actual spill. That would be bad. So I generally like to wear latex gloves. I take off my long sleeves just to be sure I don't get this chemical on my my nice jacket. And we should be good to go there. Really shouldn't, make sure you got a decent ventilated area for this chemical. You're not really supposed to sit here and just snort it, you know, that's a terrible thing to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this. This is a thicker of the two. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this, and I'm gonna get, what did I say, I'm gonna do about 300 milliliters. So I'm gonna pour 150 right here. These don't have to be exact. They need to be very close, but you know, a small, tiny percentage is not going to kill you. I've gotten to the ends of these bottles and had kind of a chunk left over of one or the other, and I haven't had any problems, but you still need to get them as close as you can. So now we're gonna go to 300 here. Oh, let's wait on this. Let's talk about the dye first. As soon as this goes in there, you only have a couple of minutes to set. So I about got ahead of myself there and screwed the pooch. So we're gonna go ahead and do the dye. The dye, I've got this orange stuff that's been producing pretty nice holds so far. I've got blue and black. The orange dye is just fine. As far as ratio goes, we're doing 300. I'm gonna do, the correct phrasing on that. I'm gonna do about 30 drops. For 400 liters, I do 30 drops. For 300, I'm gonna do 18, I think. So I used to do a drop per 10 milliliters, and that was ridiculous. So I'm still finding the color balance, because at some point I need to start matching colors with gems. But for home wall, it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna do, if I'm doing 300 milliliters, I'll do a little more. I'll do like 30 or 22. Let's do 22. And we're gonna pour this in. So throw my nozzle on the ground. 300. And once we do this, we're in. We can't abandon ship. So here we go. We only got a couple minutes of mixing time. Anytime I try to do more than 1,000 milliliters of resin, I have not been able to get all my molds poured before I ran out of time. So unless you can find a resin that's got a longer working time than that. Look for streaks inside of this. That's kind of the standard way to know that you've got it thoroughly mixed. If it's not thoroughly mixed, you'll find real dark spots inside of your holds or on the outside of it that take much longer to dry and are always much weaker and softer than what's needed. So mix it up real good. Get your streaks out of it if you can see it in the light. If you can't, just keep mixing. A real hairline. It's just those two things mixing. But a good 30, 40 seconds of mixing should be plenty, but you got to get pouring pretty quickly. All right. Here we go. I'm going to pour this one. We're going to get up just below the edge. These smaller holds really don't expand a lot. Your bigger holds will expand a little bit, so you don't want to fill them up to the edge. That's perfect. Perfect, perfect. All right, you can see this is mostly gone hard here. These last couple of these outside edges around here are probably going to dry at that color, but I don't think they're quite dry yet. If I pulled this out of the mold, they'd be pretty kind of gooey. So I'm going to let those sit for a little bit longer. We'll cut back into it, pop the thing out of the hold, we'll sand the back of it, and she'll be good to go. All right, you can see that 300 milliliters of resin does pretty decent. This is everything that I cast out of just what we mixed there, and out of 1,000 liters, that's just 300. So we could do this 2 more times out of 1,000 liters and then some, which is pretty decent turnaround. So I'm going to move these guys off to the side. I'll go ahead and decant this thing. So just kind of work your way around the edges here, real gently. Mold release probably isn't a bad idea. I'm pretty wary of it because I've had problems with it pooling real bad in the hold. So this is the worst part of it, is this peg. Just real gently apply pressure. There it goes, all pops out. You can see we've got some residual foam in the hold still. But other than that, everything's pretty decent. Pretty happy with everything. Looks great. Some nice edges, a little bit reminiscent of this here. But I really like the feel of everything. This one's got a little, like I said, it's got a little bit of foam in it, but I'm okay with that. This one's gonna go on my private wall, and it'll be all right. In the future, for holds like this, we probably want to put a little screw hole in here so it can't pivot, but I'm still okay with that. And looking at it, I do think you could see some use that way. I actually kind of like these ridges now for pulling that, but it's still against that bolt hole. But that surface right there, I really do like. Not much of a pinch, which is what I didn't want a pinch. I wanted a sloper. So I'm pretty happy with that. That logo turned out real well. So we're going to go ahead and do the last part of this. I'm going to put my dust mask down because resin dust is definitely the worst part of the most hazardous chance of the whole thing. So we're going to do this real quick. Just sand down. Everything came out real nice. I really don't. It needs finish, but it's not. It's really a good clean finish. I've had much worse. So we're just going to sand the back of it real quick, and this thing will be done. All right, that's a completed hold. You can wash it off, and you know, get rid of that resin dust. But other than that, that hold's done. That looks great. So, and that's how we make a climbing hold. We got a final picture of it up, and should be everything you need.